The Manson Murders. When Peace Met Terror, #, a DeepSoul Radio true crime production. The 60s ended abruptly on August 9, 1969. These words from Joan Didion's essay captured the moment when America's summer of peace and love shattered into fragments of unimaginable horror. What happened on that warm Los Angeles night would forever change the cultural landscape of a nation and spawn decades of morbid fascination. Hollywood, 1969. The entertainment industry stood at a crossroads. The glamour of classic cinema was fading as television rose to prominence. Counterculture flowed through the veins of America's youth. It was a time of radical change, of questioning authority, of seeking new paths. No one could have predicted how violently this era of peace would be disrupted. On the morning of August 9th, a maid's scream pierced the quiet Los Angeles neighborhood as she discovered a scene of unimaginable carnage at 10,050 Cielo Drive. 5 bodies, blood everywhere. The victims included actress Sharon Tate, 8 months pregnant, and 4 others, all brutally stabbed and shot. The word PIG written in blood on the front door. The following night, supermarket owner Leno LaBianca and his wife Rosemary were discovered murdered in their Los Feliz home. More blood, more cryptic messages, death to pigs, rise, and on the refrigerator, misspelled, the phrase Helter Skelter. Los Angeles descended into paranoia. Who was targeting these seemingly random victims? What did the bizarre messages mean? What connection could possibly exist between these savage killings? The answer would emerge from the shadows of the California desert, from a commune known as Spahn Ranch, and from the twisted mind of a failed musician with piercing, hypnotic eyes. Charles Manson wasn't born a monster. November 12, 1934, Cincinnati, Ohio. A 16-year-old mother who couldn't care for him. A childhood of neglect, institutions, and abuse. By 13, he was already committing crimes, cycling through juvenile detention centers, where he learned to manipulate, to control, to survive. What transforms a troubled youth into a cult leader capable of orchestrating some of the most infamous murders in American history? Perhaps it was the years in prison, where Manson studied religion not for salvation but as a tool for manipulation. Perhaps it was his obsession with the Beatles' White Album, which he interpreted as prophesying an apocalyptic race war he called Helter Skelter. By 1967, Manson had gathered his family, mostly young women from middle-class backgrounds seeking meaning in the counterculture movement. At Spahn Ranch, he reigned supreme, forbidding possessions, administering LSD, and lecturing for hours about his apocalyptic visions. The murders, as investigators would later discover, were not random acts of violence but calculated attempts to ignite Manson's prophesied race war. The bloody messages were meant to implicate the Black Panthers, to make the killings appear politically motivated. Charles Manson never personally killed any of the Tate LaBianca victims. He didn't have to. His followers were willing to kill for him. For 4 months, the murders remained unsolved. Then the threads began to unravel. A raid on Barker Ranch in Death Valley. The arrest of Susan Atkins on suspicion of stealing RV equipment. A jailhouse confession. The connections between the Tate LaBianca murders and the earlier killing of musician Gary Hinman slowly emerged. By December 1, 1969, arrest warrants were issued for Charles Manson, Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten. The trial broke records, the most expensive to date, the longest period a jury had been isolated, the longest murder case in American history at that time. Though initially sentenced to death, the defendants received life imprisonment when California ruled the death penalty unconstitutional. Even behind bars, Manson's dark charisma continued to captivate. Books, magazines, films, music, the cultural obsession with this murderous cult leader never truly faded. As recently as 2014, at 80 years old, Manson became engaged to a 26-year-old woman who regularly visited him in prison. Perhaps the most disturbing legacy of the Manson murders, is not just the violence itself, but what it revealed about human nature. How easily the vulnerable can be manipulated, how thin the veneer of civilization truly is, how peace and terror can coexist in the same cultural moment. The victims, Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, Stephen Parent, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, deserve to be remembered as more than footnotes in the story of their killer. Their lives were cut short in service of a madman's delusion, their deaths marking the end of an era of innocence. Hollywood's summer of love had transformed into a season of fear. The 60s were over. Something darker had begun. What do you believe happened here? Share your theory in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to DeepSoul Radio for more chilling cases like this.